Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 252 of our trip around the United States. We are back on time right where we should be, and that was for a reason. I was willing to cut targets out of the last 2 days to keep us on time because today is our big day in New Mexico. We are kicking things off here in Albuquerque, but unfortunately, we're not really going to be taking the time to tour the city. I'm going to put a pin on the map, and Albuquerque is somewhere I'm going to want to come back to on a future date. We are here because we have to complete the County Challenge Final, which is just east of the city. We're going to go after the oldest virtual in the state, which is just north of the city. And then we're going to bring our route for the day, which is 290 miles between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, the long way, around through DeLorme Page 14, northwest of the city, heading east to tap the corner of Page 16, and then bringing our day to an end at the oldest geocache in the state. Between the oldest virtual, which is a hike, and the oldest geocache, which is a hike, we're going to need some time dedicated for those two. And the oldest is coming up at the end of our day. So we need to make sure that we're managing our time appropriately today because we want to be there to be able to do that thing before we shut down for the night. Rest assured though, if we have to go to sleep tonight and aren't able to find that, we will be hitting it at the crack of dawn tomorrow. Either way, we know this is going to be a big day. We're going to start off heading into downtown Albuquerque, see a couple of the sites really quickly before we head off for the oldest virtual, circle around for the oldest on that hike, and round our day off to completion. Hopefully we'll get all of our targets, and hopefully we'll get to see some really cool stuff along the way. Let's see what today has in store. Come on, let's go. We begin our short tour of Albuquerque in the historic Old Town, which has been the heart of the city since it was founded in 1706. This is Albuquerque's first neighborhood and still remains a center for culture, architecture, shopping, and fine dining with more than 100 shops, galleries, and restaurants to offer. The plaza is centered around the San Felipe de Neri Church, which was built in 1793 after the collapse of the original structure. Old Town still looks today much like it did when it was built centuries ago, even before the signing of the Declaration of Independence. No matter which direction you turn in Old Town, you are sure to discover opportunities to learn more about the local history, often hidden right there in plain sight. The fact of the matter is that Albuquerque is just too big of a city to explore in one day. The city stretches through the Albuquerque Basin, flanked in by the Sandia Mountains to the east and the West Mesa on the west side. Within that valley, over 500,000 people reside, making it the 32nd most populated city in the United States and the 4th largest in the entire Southwest. And taking into account the entire Albuquerque metropolitan area, which is formed from Santa Fe, Las Vegas, and Albuquerque, there are well over 1 million people to be found in this area. Throughout its history, Albuquerque has always been an important hub for transportation, technology, and a cultural center for fine arts. It experienced its first major growth spurt in 1880 when the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad arrived into the area. A plethora of merchants, mountain men, and settlers filtered into the area, creating a major mercantile commercial center in the downtown area. And during the surgence of transcontinental air service, Albuquerque became an important stop on many air routes, earning it the nickname Crossroads of the Southwest. Speaking of which, at least one resident seems in need of a new air service route.
Please, won't somebody call a doctor for this wacky waving and play with water and flailing tube guy? He needs help badly.
There are a ton of geocaches to be found in Albuquerque. A ton. So many, in fact, that you could geocache here for several weeks and still not even be close to clearing out everything in the city. I treat a city like this just like I would a trip to the buffet. I typically arrive feeling like I'm on the edge of starvation and looking to consume as much food as possible, but I have my limits. Rather than gorging on everything in sight, I strategically pick what I want to consume so that by the time I'm full, I've had the best of the best as far as I'm concerned. This means that in seeking out geocaches to qualify both in the county and the page, and just to claim the city, I chose to go after a bunch of challenge geocaches including the Busy, Jasmer, and county qualifiers. In addition to those, I picked out just a few that looked like they'd be pretty interesting to find. Whether you like solving puzzles, completing challenges, lifting lamp skirts, scratching your head over a particularly difficult hide, or finding ammo cans, there's something for every cacher in Albuquerque. Heading on our way out of Albuquerque, we make our way north into Bernalillo in pursuit of the oldest geocache in the state of New Mexico. So here's the thing about the oldest geocache in New Mexico. The waters are a little murky. There was a series of letterboxes placed in this area all the way back in 1998 before geocaching was a reality. Some of those listings were imported into the geocaching.com website, but the GC codes did not necessarily follow their true order of placement. Open Space 7, a virtual, is technically the oldest with a hide date of February 2nd, 2001. At that time, it was originally placed as a physical geocache that kept disappearing and was finally converted into a virtual in mid-2002. Pajarito Springs Stash, by comparison, placed just a little more than a week later, has been a physical geocache and remained in the same location since it was placed. What that means to me is I am not quite comfortable with finding Open Space 7 and calling it the oldest in the state, knowing that there's another geocache that has been physically sitting there much longer. The remedy for this is simple. We'll just hike them both today. And the hike out to Open Space 7 turned out to be quite a lot of fun. Aichan and I both enjoyed making our way up and down the hills to get to the final site we needed to snap a picture.
That is it. The oldest virtual in New Mexico. A hike up into the mountains and a circle of rocks waiting for you at the end of it. But not a bad viewpoint at all. Now it's time to sink our teeth right into those pages we have for the day before we finish things up with the state's oldest.
Our page targets for the day essentially take us on a very wide circle around the Valles Caldera National Preserve. This nearly 90,000 acre park encompasses almost all the volcanic caldera created by a volcanic eruption about 1.2 million years ago. And while the caldera is dormant, it is not extinct, still displaying signs of volcanic life, both with hot springs and boiling sulfuric acid fumaroles. We steadily geocached our way along 550 North, then turning east along Highway 84, following the edge of the volcanic caldera the whole time. One of my favorite surprise targets of the day was the one that brought us to the Albuquerque Lake Recreation Area. The lake, a 5,200 surface acre reservoir, and the 4-mile-long Albuquerque Lake Vista Trail are both managed by the Army Corps of Engineers. Walking out to just the end of the picnic area, you can find a quick geocache and enjoy a panoramic view of the Flint Mountains. Continuing east from there, past Albuquerque, along Highway 285 into the Carson National Forest, things become a little more dicey a lot quicker. This 1.5 million acre national forest is the northmost of 5 national forests found within New Mexico. It also has the highest elevation of any of these forests, rising from 6,000 feet all the way up to 13,000 feet at Wheeler Peak, the highest point in the state. As we continued to push further into the forest for our targets, the weather conditions continued to grow worse and worse.
Well, as you can see, we were not able to entirely avoid the snow. But the road's still clear and we're going to keep moving forward.
Aichan and I were both grateful that we had no intentions of ascending to the top of Mount Wheeler. We made our finds in the snow and then once again began to make our way down again. With daylight quickly running out, we make our way to the final primary target of the day, the Pajarito Springs Stash, the oldest physical geocache in the state of New Mexico. The terrain on this listing is a 3.5, which, for a geocache placed all the way back in 2001, should tell you a lot about what you're about to get into here. From the top of the Red Dot Trail system is a 3/4 mile hike straight down into Pajarito Canyon. Whether going down or coming back up, this is a brutal hike. The canyon is rough. The rocks are rather sharp-edged, and to make it all the way down to the Rio Grande, it is more than 1,000 feet down. The Red Dot Trail system is exactly like what it sounds. As you progress on your way up or down the canyon, you follow a series of red dots. And there are several points which you will be looking at a red dot, questioning whether or not that's really the trail. With some perseverance and careful steps though, we did end up making this journey.
All right, and it looks like that is going to do it for our day.
We kicked things off in Albuquerque, and although I really enjoyed the city, it was not our primary goal for the day. So we made our way out of there pretty quickly by grabbing a few challenges in the city, taking a quick tour of the downtown area, and then immediately popping out east to go grab the county challenge final for the state of New Mexico. From there, we went north of the city and went out into open space for the oldest virtual geocache in the state, which was about a mile round trip hike for Aichan and I through the hills, and we had a pretty good time of it. Then we began to get our way into the pages for the day. We worked through the northern central pages in the state of New Mexico, getting rid of all but the few in the very northeast corner of the state, which we're going to be knocking out tomorrow. Now we're ending our day right here on the Red Dot Trail, right above the oldest physical geocache in the state of New Mexico. Now, which one is actually the oldest may be a bit of a contentious issue in the community, as the virtual has an earlier place date, but being a non-physical cache, a lot of people would consider this the state's oldest. One way or the other. What I know for sure is today I found the oldest in the state of New Mexico, whether you consider the virtual or the physical, because we're knocking them out in one day. We are very excited to bring you one more day of New Mexico tomorrow as we begin things off in the state capital to finish the state before heading east through Oklahoma. Thank you guys for joining us up into the snow and through the oldest geocaches in the state. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.